Welcome again to our session. I am your instructor, CPA Ringo Frederick, and it is a continuation of what we were doing earlier on. Remember, in our last class, we had introduced the concept of group accounts, and that is consolidation. So in our today's class, I want us to handle the concept known as what? The group structures. Because at any given point, whenever you'll be given a question, it will also be very important for you to analyze the group structure that you'll be having. So that should take us straight to group structures. That should take us straight to group structures. So allow Mwalimu to erase here so that in this case we can analyze the group structures. So talk about group structures. These are what I want us to study today. Group structures. Group structures. Group structures is what I want us to talk about today. So anytime you're talking about group structure, my good students will find that at this point, for the parent company to consolidate for the operations of the investee companies, it should first determine the group structure and the shareholding. For us to consolidate our subsidiaries together with the parent, we must first of all determine our group structures. And to that note, we normally tend to talk about the three types of group structures, namely, so these are types of group structures that we normally tend to talk about, types of group structure, types of group structure that we normally tend to talk about. These will include the following. Number one, that must always tend to stick at the back of our mind. We normally tend to talk about what is known as what? The aspect to do with horizontal group structure. So talk about horizontal group structure, horizontal group structure. Number two, talk about vertical group structure, vertical group structure. Number three, talk about mixed group structure, mixed group structure, mixed group structure. So basically, that is what I want us to talk about today, the aspect of the group structures. So on that note, let us start by understanding the first one, which in this case, we will be talking about what? The aspect of horizontal group structure. So let us first of all analyze the first one and understand each element. Talk about horizontal group structure, horizontal group structure, horizontal group structure. Let us understand what horizontal group structure entails. So for horizontal group structure, my good students, we are looking at, it exists where the parent company has direct control. It exists where the parent company has direct control in one or more investee companies. Where we do have direct control in one or more investee companies, in one or more investee companies. So we are talking of where horizontal group structure will have it, where a company, where the parent company has direct control in one or more investee companies. So that is very important for us to understand. Now, looking at that case, I want us to have an example which will kind of open our mind wide when it comes to this. So take a look at this example. At this point, maybe we are told that H Limited, example, for Mwalimu to explain this concept, example, we are told that H Limited acquires 80%, 50%, and 40% of A Limited, and 40% of A Limited, and 40% of A Limited. That is of A, that is H Limited acquires 80%, 50%, and 40% of A Limited, B Limited, and C Limited respectively. and C limited, and C limited respectively, and C limited respectively, and C limited respectively. Required here, required. Show the group structure and the shareholding for consolidation purposes. Show the group structure, shows the group structure and shareholding for consolidation purposes. And shareholding for consolidation purposes. For consolidation purposes. So given such a case, my good students, where are we going to start from? Where are we going to start from? So we need to show our group structure. So in this event, this is how our group structure will look like. I'm having H limited. We've acquired 3 companies. That is, of course, we've acquired A, B, and C. So therefore, at this point, it means that for A, we've acquired 80%. B, we've acquired 50%. And C, we've acquired 40%. It means that we do have what? We do have a direct control. We do have a direct control of the companies. So what about the shareholdings part of it? Also, that will be very important for us to understand. What about the shareholdings? So if we were to look at the shareholdings part of this is what we'll be having. Talk about the shareholding part of this. So shareholding part of it, you should be having this case. Allow me to erase that because you've seen it. So our shareholding, my good students, we should be talking on this case. I'm having shareholding here. So for shareholding, we should be talking of in A limited, whatever that we are owning in A limited, whatever that we are owning in B limited, and whatever that we are owning in C limited. Okay? So this is what we do have. Holding company, what do we own in A limited? Of course, you are talking of what? 80%. For, in this case, H, we are owning 50%. And in C, H, we are owning 40%. But you'll find A, in this case, we can agree that A is a subsidiary. If you can recall what we did in our previous class, A is a subsidiary. So for subsidiary, I'll be having this portion that we are not controlling, which will also have to account for the same. And this portion is what you are going to term it as what? As NCI. So the portion that you are not controlling, which is 20%, is what you are terming it as what? As NCI. So basically, this is how our shareholding will look like. Remember, NCI will only come into place where we are having subsidiary. In the event that we are having associate, in the event that we be having a joint venture, at that point we won't be having as an NCI. NCI will only come into place in the event that we are having what? A subsidiary. In the event that we are having a subsidiary. So basically that is in regard to horizontal group structure. That should take us to number B, vertical group structure. Talk about vertical group structure. Talk about vertical group structure. Talk about vertical group structure. So very important also for us to understand what vertical group structure entails. So for vertical group structure, my good students, basically here, we will be looking at a case where a vertical group structure exists, where a subsidiary company has a direct control in another subsidiary company. Talk about sub-subsidiary. Understand that concept clearly. Mwalimu is saying that for us to talk about vertical group structure, we are looking at a situation where I'm having a group where in this case we say that we do have a group structure. This is a group structure exists where a subsidiary company has a direct control in another subsidiary company, meaning that the parent company will be having what is known as what? A sub-subsidiary. A sub-subsidiary. And for us to cement that concept clearly, look at this example. Talk about this example here. Talk about this example for us to analyze the concept of a vertical group structure. We are told that I'm having, take the same case. We're having H Limited, acquired 80%, H Limited, acquired 80% of S Limited, and S Limited acquired, and S Limited acquired 70% of B Limited. Required here. Show the group structure and shareholding. Show the group structure and shareholding. For consolidation purposes. So what will we be having? Now this is how our structure will look like, because I'm having H Limited, which is our holding company. In that case, we've acquired S Limited. And S Limited, you'll find that at this point, S Limited has acquired aspect to do with what? Has acquired B Limited. So H, we've acquired 80% of that, whereas B has acquired 70% of B Limited. So B Limited will be a sub-subsidiary of what? H Limited. B will be a sub-subsidiary of H Limited. So that's how our group structure will look like. Meaning that at this point, you'll find that, therefore, H Limited has an indirect control. H Limited has an indirect control to B Limited. So in the event that you're supposed to prepare our shareholding, how will our shareholdings look like? So my shareholding, therefore, we should be talking of this case. Our shareholding will be having something like this, whereby I'm having in talk about in S Limited, and talk about in B Limited. So remember here, S is our subsidiary, B is our sub-subsidiary. So what is H holding in S? So H here, we can agree that at this point, our percentage shareholding is 80%, right? Being 80%, at this point, we're having NCI of 20%. We do have NCI of 20%. NCI, it means that you're having 20%, okay? Now, in B Limited, what will we be having in B Limited, my good students? What will we be having in B Limited? So in B Limited, you'll find that H has indirect control in B Limited. And this indirect control will come into a case whereby I'm owning 80% of S and S is owning 70% of B. So we can talk of 80% by 70%. So that should give us what percentage? That should give us a percentage of, that should give us 56%, right? So that should give us 56%. That should give us 56%. Meaning that I'll be having a component of NCI here also. So NCI at that point, you should be talking of NCI to be 44%. to be 44%. And that's how our group structure will be, or rather our shareholding, 100%, and we do have 100%. So basically that is what we should have. That is what we should have whenever we are talking about what? A vertical group structure. Let us talk about our last group structure here. We are talking of mixed group structure. Talk about mixed group structure. So analyzing mixed group structure, my good students, analyzing mixed group structure, which is our last structure. So mixed group structure, see, mixed group structure. Just from the suggestion, talk about what? Mixed. So what is this mixed group structure? For mixed group structure, my good students, basically we are looking at exists where both the parent and the subsidiary company controls the subsidiary directly. I repeat this statement again. You are saying that exists where both the parent and the subsidiary company controls the subsidiary directly. Controls the subsidiary directly. Controls the subsidiary directly. So in this context, take for example, an example so that you can cement this knowledge. Example, we are saying that at this point you're looking at a situation whereby both the parent and subsidiary, we are controlling another subsidiary company directly. Basically, that is what you're talking about. So looking at this context, my good students, take for example this example. H Limited acquired 80% of S Limited and 20% of Q Limited and 20% of maybe talk about of A Limited. Then at this point also we are told that S Limited controls or acquired controls 40% of A Limited. So in this context, we are having direct control in A Limited. Both holding or parent company and subsidiary, we do have control over A Limited. So this is how our structure will be. First of all, I'm having H there. H, we are controlling S Limited. And talk about here, we are having A Limited. So for H, in this case, we've agreed we are controlling 80%, meaning that these are subsidiary. Whereas in this case, you'll find that S is controlling what percentage you've said? 40%. Is controlling 40%. Is controlling 40% of A Limited. But again, A here, you'll find that H, in that context, you'll find that we are controlling 20% of A Limited, meaning that you are talking of direct control. We are talking of direct control. So basically, this is how our structure will look like anytime we're talking about mixed group structure. Now, the big question will be, what about our shareholding? My good students? To look at our shareholding, that again will be very simple because this is what we'll be having. And I want us to open our mind wide clearly on this. So looking at our shareholding, we should be talking of, I want to look at whatever that we are owning in S Limited and whatever that we are controlling in A Limited. So we can all agree that our holding company, we are controlling 80% here of S. Whereas in this case, we'll find that I'll be having NCI to be 20%. What about in A, my good students? In A, you'll find that H Limited, we're having both direct and indirect control. how will indirect control come to be? Indirect control will come to be in this case. Indirect control will come to be in this case, whereby H, I'm owning 80, and S is owning 40 on the other side. So talk about 80% by 40%. 80% by 40%. So basically that should give us what? Indirect control will give us 32%. Whereas we are having direct control, term it as DC, 20%. So we can agree that the total shareholding of H Limited in S, in this case we do have what? 52%. And therefore I'll be having NCI of 48%. To give us 100%, we're having 100%. So basically this is how our group structure will look like, because you'll find that in H Limited, or rather H Limited, I'm having both direct and indirect control in A Limited. And that's why we are talking of what? This is indirect control. And this is what? Direct control. And that's how our group structure will look like. So my good students, at this point, Mwalimu is very happy because we've given almost all the concepts that we need to know before we start looking at, probably before we go deep into consolidation. So to this juncture, thank you so much. And let us meet in our next class, whereby we are going now to introduce the other parts of consolidation. Thank you so much, and let us meet in the next session. Thank you.